Okay, to bring us home today, we have Emyria Limited, ASX code EMD, and they have a market cap of 27 million. Emyria is a healthcare technology company that specializes in utilizing real-world evidence to enhance mental health care and treatment outcomes. Presenting for the company today is MD Michael Winlo. Michael, welcome back to the Hidden Gems webinar. Please take it away.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I appreciate that we're at the top of the allocated hour, but I'm about to talk about some things which I think people will find very interesting, psychedelic treatment, specifically MDMA, and how we're utilizing these potent medications to make a real impact in mental health, and how Emyria is leading the way. If you don't mind moving to the next slide. A usual disclaimer, and at the bottom there's also some extra language around the risks of some of these treatments we'll be speaking about today. Next question, please. Next slide, thank you. So Emyria is really uniquely positioned. We're the only ASX listed company actively evaluating drug-assisted therapies. Our goal is to become a global leader in both the delivery and the development of these treatments. And we've got a couple of really key focus areas. Focus directly on mental health, and specifically to start with post-traumatic stress disorder, a subset of the broader anxiety disorders. We are particularly interested in the potential of drug-assisted therapies, and we have already commenced a study using MDMA-assisted therapy for the treatment of PTSD. We're actively involved in patient care, and we have been since our founding a few years ago. And so we have the clinicians, the clinical infrastructure, some unique capabilities to be hands-on with patients. Where importantly, that's generating revenues that supports our growth, but also to that fourth pillar, strong clinical data that we use to drive our innovation agenda, both improving how we deliver care, but also giving us insights into new potential treatments as well. And of course, to accomplish this, we've had to build a really excellent world-class team, both on the board level and in management. And we have terrific research partners from around the world, notably the NIH in the United States and the University of Western Australia. Next slide, please. And so why are we starting with drug-assisted therapies and for mental health, and why is that important, and why are these interesting interventions? Well, mental health is a rising global challenge. Latest statistics suggest 1 in 5 adults may have a mental health challenge in any 12-month period. If you've ever had a friend or a loved one suffering from depression or some other challenge, you'll also appreciate how difficult it can be to get treatment for those individuals as well. And we know that there's a real shortage of clinicians, and more broadly, a shortage of effective, durable treatment options for patients with really challenging mental health conditions. And that's why there's been so much interest and excitement and attention placed on this new world of drug-assisted therapies, and terrific investment has also been flowing towards those companies as well. One of the pioneering institutes, MAPS, who led a lot of the key clinical trials, which we'll walk through for MDMA-assisted therapy, recently raised $100 million US to take their drug through the United States. But Australia has a really important role to play in this sector, being the only jurisdiction globally currently who has legalized prescribing for MDMA for PTSD and psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. And so Australia has very stringent access pathways that are available to suitably qualified specialists, which puts us in a really unique position to both help evaluate these treatments in the real world and ultimately come up with some of the key models for how these treatments can be delivered safely and effectively and in a commercially viable way. And Emyria believes that we're uniquely equipped to participate and lead that activity. If you go to the next slide, please. And this really summarizes the core message here, is that this new approach to mental health, where we're combining potent medications with very intense psychotherapy, really lends itself to those companies who are involved in both of those efforts, who are involved in frontline care, involved in therapy delivery, but also appreciate that these medications will evolve over time as well. And this is the unique sweet spot that Emyria sits in. We have the capabilities to both be involved in delivery and development in the long term, which we believe gives us significant advantage. Next slide, please. And we've been preparing for years for this time. In the last couple of years, we've built incredible infrastructure and capacity. We have fit-for-purpose facilities. We have 20 plus trained clinicians across specialist psychiatry, mental health GPs, counselors, therapists, mental health nurses as well. We've got robust data capture systems in place. We've treated more than 20,000 patients who weren't getting response from their usual care. And so we're really apt at treating and managing real patients in the real world. And we've already commenced important clinical trials into this space. Recently, at the beginning of this year, our lead specialists achieved authorized prescriber status, which allows us to take our trial efforts into treatment paradigms. We know we're generating healthy revenues today, but we're in the process of growing and expanding our services so that we have the revenues and resources to support growth. But ultimately, our ambitions are very, very large and broad. And we think the insights we're uniquely able to capture have relevance for licensable care models that we can take nationally and ultimately internationally, both in how to deliver these treatments safely and effectively, but also how can we leverage the data and those opportunities to learn with our patients to support innovation across novel drug development and care delivery as well. So lots of upward potential for our organization. Next slide, please. And so what this slide is displaying here is that we're starting with post-traumatic stress disorder as our focus indication. This is a condition that affects nearly 1 million Australians, 6% by some measures. We know that half of those patients may not respond to their usual treatment, and so they represent a really costly part of the healthcare population. Encouragingly though, MDMA-assisted therapy is showing incredible promise in clinical trials. It's still being evaluated, but 2 major phase 3 trials have concluded, and with similar results showing more than 70% of patients who participate in a regime of MDMA-assisted therapy no longer meet the criteria of PTSD after those 3 sessions. The psychiatric community has never really seen outcomes like this in a drug study, but this is a new way of working. This is a new way of providing care. And so we need groups that are competent in delivering this treatment for it to become a service available to the broader population who needs it. And Emyria is actively involved in these studies as well. Next slide, please. And so what is MDMA-assisted therapy? Well, it's the co-administration of a potent drug, in this case MDMA, also considered an empathogen. It's a unique drug. It's not a traditional psychedelic, and it doesn't create hallucinations or distortions of time, space, or reality. Patients stay lucid on this treatment, but importantly, they have much greater feelings of trust, compassion. They have decreased feelings of fear, and in that state of mind, psychotherapy can become much more effective for those individuals. And we believe it allows patients to approach periods of trauma in their past with a lot more compassion and work through that. And it makes the psychotherapy more effective. Being an amphetamine class drug, these treatments can raise blood pressure and heart rate, and so they're not for everybody. There are some exclusion criteria that need to be considered, but for those patients who do qualify, this is a really promising treatment. And if we go to the next slide, we can see some of the outcomes that are being achieved in these well-run large phase 3 trials, where we see significant improvements in both symptoms and in function. We also note that these benefits appear to be very durable, at least out to 12 months, and patients reduce their alcohol intake and other use of other drugs, and essentially experience huge increases in quality of life. We can go to the next slide, please. Importantly, we also believe that despite being a very intensive intervention, ultimately MDMA-assisted therapy is cost effective. If you look at the usual course of treatment, say over 12 months for a patient with severe PTSD, it may involve multiple hospital admissions, some other kinds of interventions as well, all add up to very significant expenses. MDMA-assisted therapy, by comparison, a 12 to 16 week program, estimated to cost around $30,000, primarily because of the intensive psychotherapy component, but expected to have a very durable benefit for patients. And so we feel this has a very, very important role to play in the treatment paradigm for patients who aren't responding to their usual care. Go to the next slide, please. And so we can summarize kind of where Emyria's focus is right now. We know that PTSD is a major challenge and it needs new treatments. MDMA-assisted therapy is showing incredible promise, both in clinical outcomes and in cost effectiveness. And so it'll be up to groups like us with that knowledge of how to deliver these innovative clinical services in the real world and to drive this intervention forward and build the data that can support future innovation, but also ultimately compel payers to take an interest and a role in this space as well. And we've got a really strong business model that allows us to use our clinical services to provide revenues and data that can subsidize our R&D and growth agenda. If we go to the next slide, please. And we know that just the clinical services side alone, if we are a premium clinic, we can do very well as a business. A couple of our peers, which we like to call out, notably here on the top, Oak Street Health, a company, tech-driven clinical service based in the United States, recently acquired for more than $10 billion US, given the outcomes they're able to achieve with innovative care delivery in the United States, and some other peers there, which of names you may recognize. If we go to the next slide, please. Quick corporate snapshot for us. So we're already getting the support of substantial life science investors. One of our largest institutional investors is 10 Mile, who's backed us on the register. And I think given our market capitalization at the moment, huge opportunity for upside and growth for our business. If we go to the next slide, please. There, and really to help get us there, a remarkable board. I'll call out a few key individuals here. Greg Hutchison is our new non-executive chairman. He is the current CEO of Sonic Health Plus, deputy CEO of Sonic Clinical Services, has excellent track record of growing and expanding clinical services from just a handful of physiotherapy practices to a national network. Professor Sir John Tuke, based in London, knighted for services to medicine, an expert in learning health systems, ex-advisor to Google DeepMind, ex-board member of Bupa International, a major payer, and has been really instrumental in helping us think through how to set up a learning health system. Dr. Karen Smith, a biopharma executive based in the United States, been involved in multiple billion-dollar acquisitions of drug development companies, there to advise us on how to use our data and how to advance our drug development program running in the background as well. And Dr. Mohit Kaushal, a new addition to our board as well. He was on the board of Oak Street Health, an early investor in that company, the one I mentioned, acquired for $10 billion, an expert in using technology to help improve the efficiencies of clinical services. We go to the final slide. Here, that brings us really to our roadmap and what to look forward to over the next 12 months. We're out there launching this service. We're leading from the front in delivering these new treatments for patients who may benefit. Expect to see us make moves to grow this service, first locally and then nationally, as well as use our infrastructure to expand the treatments that we have available and that we are evaluating. And we'll use the data we gather to support two important efforts. That is to engage payers so that they can help offset the cost of this important treatment, and ultimately use that data to support an innovation agenda. We have a deep drug development pipeline, which I don't touch on in this presentation, but which is also running in the background and gives us an incredible asset base on which to build a very significant company. Thank you for your time.
Michael, many thanks. Great presentation. And just to going back to that slide with the board members, clearly endorsement of where Emyria is going to have such significant people behind you. You know, a company's only as strong as their board, and clearly, you know, with a board like that, they clearly believe that the pathway for Emyria is very, very strong.
Absolutely, I would reiterate that. Clinical services has always been a foundation. We've been an interesting business, ambitious. We've had our hands involved in patient care. We've also had obviously drug development programs, which are still active, but I think the new board has been very clear. Let's get really focused. Let's seize this opportunity that's unique and in front of us, and in some ways, in one that Emyria is uniquely equipped to lead in. And let's start from there, and let's build a big company that can meet our broader goals over the long term. Yeah.
A few more questions here. Can you tell us what's the status of enrolments in the company's PTSD model enrolments, and how many patients are currently enrolled, and how many do you anticipate and when?
Yeah, so the trial serves two purposes, really. It is a opportunity for us to look deeply at cost effectiveness of this treatment. We have 2 patients who have completed full treatment. We have a third that's in flight right now. The study also serves to tool up and, I guess, give hands-on experience to our clinical team as well, who are there now ready to support the authorized prescriber program. And so we have ambitions. We have sufficient drug supply for 50 participants on the study. But now we also have, with the authorized prescriber approvals, in part advanced by our activity in the clinical trial space, we now have other opportunities to get suitably qualified patients involved in this treatment if they qualify, with the rest of our clinicians as well. So the trial will run in parallel, but our priority now is really to activate the treatment arm of this service for suitably qualified patients.
Gotcha. And the question here, What is the latest update on Emyria's phase 3 clinical trial for EMD RX5 for mild stress and anxiety?
Yeah. So the question is referring to our low-dose cannabinoid dose form, which we paused last year to investigate some dissolution variability. That drug asset is still on hold. It is still of interest to us, though given the limited cash reserves we have, and I guess this unique opportunity to push forward in this space and really lead from the front, we're hoping to generate some growth and get some momentum behind us before reactivating that program. Other of our drug development pipelines, including the MDMA analogues, is fully funded with University of Western Australia and is progressing. And our prescription cannabinoid dose forms are working through a fully funded preclinical program that's been subsidized and paid for by the NIH in the United States. So we've got some non-dilutive ways that those programs are moving forward. And for those that require a bit more funding over the longer term, we're making sure we're putting our dollars on the most high return efforts today, and then we'll come back to those when we're ready.
Absolutely. And remind us again, what does the recent ethics endorsement of the company's lead psychiatrist mean for the rollout of the therapy?
Yeah, great question. So the endorsement of the lead psychiatrist means that we are now able to lean on our specialist and our supportive team to allow them to exercise their clinical judgment and profession and offer this treatment to patients who we believe may benefit outside of the rigorous trial process. And so that allows us to offer this as a treatment rather than a trial activity. Two important things for the business. It means that we can iterate on the way we deliver this treatment to try and make the treatment more affordable over the long term. It also means we can start to accept payment to cover the cost of delivering this treatment. So rather than the company invest and fund the study out of our own pocket, we can invite other payers and patients to contribute to that cost.
Michael, many thanks for your time today. A very fascinating story. One, again, we'll be keeping very close eye on. You have a great weekend, but thanks for your time.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for your interest.